Welcome to episode 199 of Girl Take the Lead, where each week we explore womanhood and leadership. And I'm your host, Yo Canny. Today, Lata Hamilton, Millennial, returns to the show to discuss her new book, Pioneer Your Career Change, the proven path to change careers with confidence and earn your worth. Her book has reached #1 in the job hunting category, #2 in personal success and spirituality, #5 in business and women, and climbing the charts to be #1 in all categories. Lata is a change, leadership, and confidence expert, the creator of Leading Successful Change program, and the founder and CEO of Passion Pioneers. These topics are the ones we covered. Why changing careers with confidence is important, how to make a change and things to consider, 5-step formula for career change process, don't follow someone else's path, portfolio careers, 6 areas of our lives in alignment, types of career costs, and the power of forgiveness. You know that I like to match a card or gift from our online store at our website, girltaketheleadpod.com/shop, that reflects the episode. And for this one, I think the She Flies with Brave Wings is the perfect card to reflect Lata's journey with her book launch. Enjoy the listen, and here you go. Lata, welcome back to Girl Take the Lead. I love it
Thank
when
you
people
so
come
much,
back.
Yo. It's so lovely to be back here. Thank you so much for having me back.
I love it when people come back because it's like a friend coming back. So I appreciate that very much. So let's start. Would you introduce yourself to our listeners and viewers who maybe didn't catch our previous episode, but I'll have that in the show notes for those of you who are interested in listening to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Lata Hamilton. I'm a change leadership and confidence expert, and newly the author of my first ever book, Pioneer Your Career Change.
And that's what we're going to talk a lot about today because I had the pleasure of reading that book. And I'm telling you, people, if you are thinking about making a career change, you have got to get this book. Now, when is it going to be available, you think, that they can
So
order it?
Yeah, so the official launch date is the 12th of November, 2024 Australian time. So obviously Australia is often, ahead of the rest of the world. Maybe only New Zealand is in front of us. So it'll be Australia time. So for some of the world, it will probably actually be like the 11th of November. But yeah, the 12th of November, 2024 is the official release date, and it's going to be coming out in print and in ebook.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
It's such a good book. And what made you want to write it?
Yeah. It's a funny story actually, yo. So I had wanted to write my memoirs. So I was like, early 30s, and I was like, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast yesterday. So I probably need to like write down the things that happened in like the first 30 years of my life. Because a lot of people think that like, you write your memoirs when you are older and you kind of like reflecting on your whole life. I'm like, I'm not gonna remember that. I'm not gonna remember
So
it.
true.
So I was kind of like writing my memoirs, and that's what I kind of always thought of publishing it as a book. And that's what I really thought the book would be. I just thought it would be like stories from my life. And the original first title was going to be One Day in December. One Day in December, which I told to some of my students recently, and they're like, I love that title. And I'm like, I loved it too, except that there is like a romance novel already out with the
It
title. So I
does
was like,
sound like a romance novel.
and the reason why it was December was because that was when I arrived in Australia. So I'm adopted, and that was when I was adopted and arrived in Australia. So I had to kind of park that. And so then, because it was going to be on my memoirs, I was like, okay, I'll call it Curls and Confidence. Curls and Confidence, because I have curly hair. I talk about confidence, and so many people that I talk to, they're like, I love that title. The interesting thing was that as I was writing my memoirs, I was like, I've actually got a message here. Like I've actually got something that I want to share. And it's no, secret that
Hmm.
I was a career coach, and I help a lot of women in their career, and in specifically career change. So like transitioning from where they are, to any career, but often into my profession, which is organizational change management. And so I was like, oh, I kind of have this message to share. And so I was like, okay, well, how do I craft it into a book? And then that's when I kind of stumbled across, actually, I really want to talk about this topic of kind of career change. And it's almost harking back to sort of the early days of my business, sort of 2015, 2016, when I first kicked off my business and then sort of started to specialize in career. Like I do talk today a lot more about change leadership, change
Hmm.
management. But I just feel like with this current time that we're living in, I've been talking about this for a few years now about the fact that with technology change, automation, artificial intelligence, there are a lot of jobs that are going to be impacted. And I think that we're on the cusp of this transition globally and sort of in the energy of the world, but then also in the way that we work and what we work on and how we think about ourselves. So if we can arm people and empower them and inspire them to take ownership of their own career, and to actually open themselves up to changing careers and doing that, from a place of confidence, from a place of positivity, from a place of openness, and from a place of, really owning their own self-worth and what they are
Hmm.
worth and what they bring to the
Hmm.
table and their value. And like that is going to pave the way for so many people if their roles are impacted, if their industries, if their companies, if their jobs are impacted by technology change, then they can actually build a successful future for themselves no matter what happens.
Well, I think your book is like this gentle guide on how to kind of walk through something that is usually paralyzing, filled with a lot of anxiety and fear. And you really do a nice job of providing actions that people can take. A lot of books will tell us what to do, like how to do, but yours is helping us really go through how to make that change. How, what are things to consider? And one of the things that I loved was you used Joseph Campbell's quote, let go of the life you planned so you can accept the one that is worthy of us. Or I
Mm,
didn't really say that correctly, but it was pretty close to what that quote is.
mm,
I thought that was so brilliant because so many times we do think we have it figured out and we push
absolutely.
really hard and we're going to make it happen. And we just keep pushing and struggling and all of the, things that come up, all the negativity that comes up around that.
Mm,
And I think your book just helps us like, okay, you're going to make a change. Let go. Here are some steps to take. And I think your book just kind of outlines that so nicely. I think it was like 5 steps, right?
mhm.
Career
Yeah,
change
my
formula.
five-step formula
Mhm.
for career change. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
super, it just breaks it down in a super simple, step-by-step process that,
Yes.
each step builds on the one before. So, the steps at a high level are: one, calculate the costs; two, remember your worth; three, get clear on career; four, commit to change; and then five, carve your path. And obviously within those, there are like sub steps and like how to go about doing that. And I think as well, like doing it from a place of authenticity,
Mhm.
from a place of courage, from a place of like what's individually meaningful for you and like what you specifically want and the life and lifestyle that you specifically want. Like I say in the book, that your career is the launch pad to the rest of your life. It
Right.
it creates a foundation for you to be able to live the kind of life and lifestyle that you want to live. So it's sort of like not, and I always kind of have this phrase, it's like carve your own path for change. It's not about cookie cuttering somebody else's career path, especially
Oh my
because
God, that was so good.
Yeah, like those careers might not exist anymore. Those paths that were tried and tested and proven and like that were the tick the box kind of thing. Like you could guarantee that career path in the past. If you did this and you went, if you went to university and college, finished school, went to university and college, got a good job, you could have this clear career path. It's just not the case anymore. Like there's so much change in our industries, companies, technology, roles, job design. It's like doing all the right things doesn't guarantee you, unfortunately, success in the world of work today, and in the career. And so, if you want to have that life and lifestyle for yourself, it is sometimes about you taking charge of that. And the quote that you mentioned from Joseph Campbell, like about the life that we planned, and in some cases, not even the life that we planned, it was just the life that we fell into,
Yeah.
or the life that we thought we wanted it back then. And then there's kind of that sunk cost fallacy where you go, well, I've already put so much time and effort and investment of me into this particular career path. Even if it's not working for me anymore, I'm going to keep plugging along, like trotting along
Yeah.
on it. And it's like, no, this is the time. Like, we only get one shot at this life. This is the time to really own and armor yourself to take whatever path you want. And what I would say is, like, I've had 5 career changes by the age of 35. I've gotten a pay rise every single time. In your career, you can have multiple careers. And I think that's really, like where we're going to now. I kind of call them like portfolio, or I hear them being called portfolio careers. And I
Hmm.
like to call them like pick and mix careers. You can have multiple careers, and sometimes I'll have students or followers come to me, and there might be women in their 40s and 50s. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, you have so much left to live and so much left to give. And like, you can have another whole career in the time that you
Yeah.
have left in the workforce if you choose to retire at sort of the average age.
Well, one of the things I loved about your book was that the the work that you're asking your readers to do,
Mm,
it's just not like here's here's what you need to do. It's an exploration for you. And
mm,
one of the things I loved that you did was you ask the reader to look at, I think it's 6 areas in their life:
mm,
career, spirituality, health, emotions, finance, and relationships.
mm.
And I love that because I think you're encouraging us to look at the totality of our life, not just this one dimension.
Yes.
And it's so important that there be alignment around all of these other things. And I thought, this is really good, Lata, because this is so insightful that we're
Mm.
not just this one dimension, that we have these other things going on too. And there definitely has to be like continuity around those things. So,
Yes, and I learned that process actually, when I did my coaching certification. So I did a life coaching certification, and we looked at that. We looked at that holistic view of your life because, often we think that there's work and life, and especially when we talk about that idea of work-life balance, it's like those are the only 2 areas. There's work and life. But when you look at it as that wheel, as that kind of like segmented wheel, you see that actually career is only 1/6 of your life. It's not this balance between 50-50. It's actually, well, I'm terrible at maths, so I don't know what 1/6 of a percentage is.
it's okay.
Don't ask me to do that, please, on the spot. I can get a calculator. But like your
Yeah.
career is actually 1/6 of your life, and it just helps to put everything into perspective. But then it also helps, I think, to show, and I talk about this a little bit in the book, is like, where are those interrelationships?
Yeah.
Like career and finance are on opposite sides of the wheel, because your career is often sort of the main driving force as to what your finances might or could look like. It's not, necessarily set in stone, but often like how much money we're able to make kind of drives the opposite side of the wheel, which is how much money do we have. And then, like spirituality sits to the left of career, and health sits to the right, because so often, and I'm absolutely guilty of this, when I've put too much focus on my career, my health has suffered.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Mm-hmm.
when I've put, or the on the other side of the wheel, it's like, if you're in a career that is not fulfilling you, if you don't feel like you're living something that's of purpose and doing something meaningful in the world, having a positive impact, that can affect your spirituality rating because you're like this
Yeah.
isn't like I'm not actually fulfilled. So there's all these interrelationships with between those areas of life. And like I mentioned, like career can be such a great way of helping to build the other areas of your life, like how you feel
Mhm.
about yourself, your emotions, or getting more balance in your career could help you have that focus on your health. Or having more fulfillment in your career or more purpose or impact could help you drive up your spirituality rating. And in my early days of my business, when I did work one on one with clients, we talked about that a lot. Like I saw that pan out over the course of our coaching would be that like we would be focusing mostly on career. I just naturally attracted clients who were, young professionals often. I
Mhm.
worked with men and women, but often they were kind of young professionals, really ambitious, really high achieving, and they wanted to take the next step in their career, and that was who I attracted. We would spend, say, let's just say we spent 6 months together coaching. Even after the 6 months, even though we honed in on career, other areas of their life would all increase and improve as well.
Mm, so good. And the other good thing that you offer in your book throughout are these little bonuses. And I think one of the things you offer is the ability to download the map of life, which I thought was like, this girl's thought of everything. It's just, it's really done a great job. Um, Maybe we can talk a little bit more about the types of career costs because you mentioned a little bit of it, in terms of there can be a spiritual cost,
Mm,
a health cost, but sometimes we're so determined
mm,
that we don't realize how blind we can be and how that affects our self-worth or our self-confidence,
mm.
like those things that are at stake too. Because you
Yes,
maybe talking a little bit too more about confidence because that seems to be a theme throughout the book too.
yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In terms of the costs, I talk a lot about loyalty in the book because I think, you mentioned it sort of earlier where people are afraid
Hmm.
and people kind of stay stuck and they kind of keep themselves because they're just so fearful of making a change because they don't know whether or not they're going to have what it takes to make that change. And,
Hmm.
we can really be talking about any type of career change. It could be, a step up, it could be a promotion, it could be going and asking for a pay rise. Excuse me. It could be an actual career change, which is what we talk mostly about in the book. But all of the steps can absolutely be used for like a pay rise or a promotion. So they're so scared that they kind of stay stuck, keep themselves, where they are. But so part of that kind of chapter in the book around calculating the true costs of loyalty, it's like you holding yourself back because of ideas of loyalty or fear of making a change can have real ramifications and costs in
Hmm.
your life. The main one obviously is financial costs, and I talk a little bit in the book about like how you'll often be better calibrating against the open market than against the 1 to 3% pay rise that you might get in your current company year on year.
1 to 3%.
Yeah,
That's about what they
which,
are. And a lot of them have been zero
yeah,
lately.
especially at the moment with the economy
Hmm.
as it is, some people are being told, um, we're not giving any pay rises at all. But the thing is that the cost of living is going up.
Yep.
So if you're earning the same, like my true belief is like if you are earning the same amount of money, it's almost like your company's stealing from you because their products and services are going up in price, but they're not passing that on to you as an employee if they're not increasing by 1 to 3%. But I'm like, I've been able to triple my salary in the space of a couple of years. I've been able to get pay rises of like $15,000, $20,000, and then doubling in one move simply by changing companies or changing the way that I work and calibrating against the open market. So
Hmm.
the financial costs are, we're not going to work for fun. I mean, we can have fun at work, but we're not going to work for fun. It's not a hobby. It's not volunteering. You want to be remunerated and compensated appropriately for the work that you do, appropriately
Hmm.
and abundantly. Saying that, you raised a really good point. it's not just about the financial costs. There are personal costs, like, how it could be costing your health, how it could be costing how you think about yourself and like your, what that means to you in your personal life. And then the spiritual costs. And the spiritual costs are the interesting one because it's like if you're not growing, if you don't have variety and challenge, if you're staying stuck and stifled, that can really have a big impact on your own sense of self esteem, your own sense of self worth. And then, just like improving in your career can have positive effects in the rest of your life, when you're feeling really drained and really stuck and really stagnant in your career, that can have detrimental effects on the
Mhm.
rest of your life too. So we really kind of want to always be taking this holistic approach. And it sounds silly, but almost trying to put a little bit of a dollar figure or a pound figure or whatever your like your currency on the things that we don't often think about as being a cost or like a really good example is, during COVID, I was working from home more, so that was great for my like work-life balance and like being able to go and exercise and stuff because I had actually been really struggling. I had changed where I lived and I had to travel a lot to work and I was like, oh, so when COVID hit, that was great. I was like, oh my goodness, I can save the commute. And it actually helped. It was one of the things that helped keep me at that company for longer. But the flip side was that I was sitting all the time and I wasn't getting enough incidental walking in. And so I had to start going to the physiotherapy weekly, weekly, because I had a sore back. And I'm like,
We
oh
don't
my
get
goodness,
everything.
like where is your career potentially creating these other real costs in your life? It might even be relationship costs where because of your career, because of the way that you work or the expectations that you have or that you feel that you have, that you could be bringing that stress and that strain home. You could be taking that out on your loved ones without
Mhm.
meaning to. It's just that you are so burnt out and you are so drained.
Yeah.
And that can have real costs as well. Like, if you have to separate from your partner or, maybe it has a flow on effect on your children, for example, on your friends or family. Like, yeah, it's really starting to look at what those true costs are. And looking at that can really help build your commitment to wanting to change.
Mm. So, is the confidence, you think, the factor that is the result of all of this? So, if you're feeling aligned, you're feeling good about life and your career,
Mm,
and more than likely you've got a good sense of self confidence.
mm.
And if you find yourself kind of going down in a spiral, it's very easy for us to lose our self confidence. Is that kind of where you net it out?
Yeah, I think so. And you do hear those stories, and I can't remember, Yo, but I think maybe you've even been in this situation before, pardon me, where when somebody loses their role, their confidence just plummets
Hmm.
and they end up sort of like, rock bottom, like maybe they get made redundant or laid off or something like that. I also see it a lot with a lot of women who go and have their babies. So they might go on maternity leave, and while they're on maternity leave, their confidence plummets. And it's just that shift in them trying to navigate that return to work and that transition. It could be that you get put into a brand new position. It could be that you get told that you've got to step up and do your boss's role because the role is vacant now, and you're like imposter
Hmm.
syndrome like suddenly comes up. Or it could also just be like that your confidence drops because you don't enjoy what you're doing anymore.
Hmm.
And because of that, it's almost like this I have a bad habit probably of like switching off, of just being like, when I'm done, I'm done. Like, and the engagement just isn't there. I will still deliver, I will still do, everything that is required of me. I will still perform really highly and I will absolutely deliver. But the passion and the love isn't there anymore. And I think even that can make your confidence wane. I think even that can really just affect the way that you feel about yourself and affect the way that you feel about life. And so yeah, so going through this process helps to build that confidence and that sense of inner worth, but also that sense of certainty and that sense of empowerment for yourself around what you want for your life, and that you're
Yeah.
committed to go and out there and get that.
I thought one of the things that really struck me. And I love how you, at the end of each chapter, you say, what was the thing in this chapter that really struck you? But one of the things that really struck me was when you said, you know, don't follow someone else's career path. Like I went, how how brilliant, because so many times you go into a new job and you look around and you figure what the career path is in that organization, like how you get promoted. So you're comparing externally to other people.
Hmm.
It's an external thing. It's not an internal, what's my path? It's like, what do I need to do that they're doing so I get promoted? And when
Mm.
you said don't follow someone else's career path, I went, oh, wow, that's good. I mean, it's so, I mean, it doesn't sound probably like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, but you do it. I mean, you get into an organization, you follow someone else's career path.
Mm.
Don't you think? I mean, I just,
Yeah, and I think like there is something in modeling other people and seeing what worked for them and learning from success. So there's nothing wrong with like going, okay, cool, like this person took this path, they took this route, and that's how they got to the place that they're at. But I think we always have to remember times have changed. So even if that person is even 3 years ahead of you, like the world might have changed, the economy might have changed, the company might have changed in that time, even if it was just 3 years earlier. Like a really good example of that is I went for a job interview at a company early on in my career, and they wanted me back for a second interview, but I can honestly tell you that the energy of the building was horrible. Like it was cold and sterile. And I'd come from this great organization sort of thing that had like a really positive, vibrant culture. And I could feel it. And like it was quiet and cold and sterile. And so I did the interview. And then they really wanted me back for a second interview. And I was like, oh no, sorry, like the distance is too far. Like I was like, the commute is too bad. Because I didn't know how to explain to them. I'm like, I can't work in that environment. Like it's just not gonna work. Um, Fast forward about 4 years ish, I think it was, and a recruiter came to me with a role, and it was for the same company. And I almost turned it down because I was like, I'm not going to do the interview because I remembered so vividly that
yeah.
experience before. But I went back into that same site, the very same building. I had a meeting with the hiring manager. It was really relaxed. It wasn't in like a cold, sterile office like meeting room. It was actually out in the cafe. There was like an activation going on. There was all this like buzz and hype and activity. It felt really warm. It felt like there was this buzzing energy, etc., etc., etc. I loved it. I
Oh,
could
that's great.
feel it. It was just incredible. And I took the role and I loved working with those people. I have some of the like some people some of those people that I worked with there are some of my best friends. Like, I was still friends today. It was probably one of the best roles that I ever had. That was only the space of about 4 years, and that company had completely changed in culture and energy. So if you're looking at somebody who's 3 to 5 years ahead of you in a company, like you don't know what it was like when they started. So you can't necessarily follow directly in their footsteps. You can absolutely learn from things and take insights and nuggets. But you're not them, so you don't know what their interests are and their passions and their objectives and their life and lifestyle goals. So you're not them, but also you're just not there at it's not the same time as that they did it. So just always be mindful, I think, is probably the the thing to say.
That's
Carve your own
terrific.
path, make your own plans and decisions, and you might be an inspiration to somebody else.
No, I thought that was just so good about having your own path. I mean, it was just so good. It hit me like that was so good. And the other thing
Mm,
that I loved, Lata, was your chapter on the power of forgiveness.
mm,
There was, there's just, with your book, every chapter was sort of a surprise. Like I went, oh, well, people don't usually put that with that. And here she is, she's talking about forgiveness.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about why you included that in the book?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner, so an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming. And that is the study of excellence in behavior, psychology, and like, which is kind of like your emotions and communication, behavior, communication, and psychology of your emotions, and obviously coaching as well. And so some of the deeper work that we do in neurolinguistic programming is about often forgiving yourself and forgiving others. And sometimes like there'll be practices that a practitioner will do with their one-on-one with their client, that kind of go into those particular opportunities to do some emotional healing.
Mhm.
I also, am a very, very strong advocate and part of her program of Denise Duffield Thomas. So she's like a money mindset mentor for women, and she talks a lot about self love and forgiveness. And she's come up from a coaching background as well, so it's quite common sort of thing to talk about forgiveness in the personal development space.
Mhm.
And I just thought to myself, like, I'm like, in my career, I have had those bad bosses or those bad experiences, or those times when I went for a pay rise and I didn't get it, and things like that. And so I wanted to include it because I think when we can start to shift some of those emotional blocks, then you are opening yourself up to something new coming in. It's
Yeah.
kind of like that decluttering of energy, but also I think it's that releasing of pain, that releasing of trauma, that releasing of fears, beliefs, anxieties, hurt, guilt. Sometimes maybe there's been in the past things that you did wrong.
Mhm.
I can put my hand up and say, like, I've made mistakes in my career. Um,
Absolutely.
I've made mistakes in my career. And so it's like, we're all human. It's like letting some of that stuff go, releasing that, making space for the new career that you want. And like a really great example of this, and I do talk about it a little bit in the book, is like when I did a big breakthrough session with one of my coaches. It was like in the area of relationships, not even in the area of career. It was in the area of relationships. And it was after that that the beautiful relationship that I'm still in today, we're almost going on to our 10-year anniversary,
Mhm.
that came into my life. I'd never had a boyfriend before that. Never had a boyfriend in my whole life. I was like 27, never had a boyfriend. And so after doing that release work with this coach, then he was already in my life, but it was like I opened up. I felt
Mhm.
my heart physically open. And it was because I now had space to actually receive that love in and
Mhm.
receive that relationship in. And so I think there's something so powerful in that. It's like if you are if your cup is already full, there's no volume left, like there's no space left for a new career to actually enter.
Mhm.
So it's kind of about sort of decluttering, releasing, letting go of things that have happened in your past, especially if you are kind of mid career or later career. There will have been many things that have happened in your past. And I give in the book like a few practices that you can do on your own because
Yep.
I've often worked with a coach. But I think it is really important that for people to have some tools that they can use on their own to just start to release some of this stuff. So that's why I
Oh, it's
included
so
the
great.
chapter.
Well, we could keep talking forever.
Mm.
But I want people to go and get the book. So tell them where they can get that and how they can follow you and contact you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to latahamilton.com/pioneer, Pioneer. So latahamilton.com/pioneer. And that's where you can buy the book. And when I'm doing the book launch, so the book's going to get launched on the 12th of November 2024, I'm actually doing a free 30-day book club to kind of celebrate the book launch. So you can absolutely jump onto the book club, and kind of get a bit of support in kind of working your way through the book and the activities, because it is a very practical book. And it's a really nice way as well to just kind of bring a community together who are all looking for that same inspiration and that same support. So you'll have me kind of supporting you for the first 30 days for that and as part of that book club.
And that starts on November the 14th,
12th.
12th.
Yeah, the book club kicks off on the 14th and the
Hmm.
book's released on the 12th. So
Got
yeah,
it.
when you go to that one, you can kind of join up for that one.
So lots of, I love asking my guests this question now. What would you tell your 20 something self?
It's such a great question. I think for me, um, like it was my late 20s that I really enjoyed. And it was my early 20s when I was like a bit like unsure of myself and things like that. Like I knew what I wanted. I just felt like I was being told by other people, like, no,
Mhm.
you've got to slow down, you've got to do your time, you've got to hold back. And I would just tell her to just go for it. I'd just be like, do what you want to do, explore other paths, explore other ways of getting to where you want to go. Because, yeah, it felt very jarring back then. And if I have could have sort of told my early 20s self, like, you can absolutely do it how you want to do it, and just go for it the way that you want to do it, that would have been the most incredible, like,
Yeah,
inspiration to have heard.
absolutely. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming and sharing your book with us and writing the book and just putting your heart into it. I mean, it's just so well laid out. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And thanks so much for having me back. It's been great.
Thank you for listening today, and we sure hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a comment wherever you listen to your podcasts. Tell a friend about us. Join our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or visit our website, girltaketheleadpod.com. We also have a YouTube channel where your subscription would be appreciated. Once you're on YouTube, search at Girl Take the Lead. And we're on YouTube Music, where you can find a video of this episode. And be sure to visit our shop and pick up with brave wings she flies card for someone who is fearless. And be sure to register for Lata's book bonuses and join her free 30-day online book club to celebrate the launch of her book. The book club kickoff party is Thursday, November 14th, and details are in the show notes. Here are 3 takeaways from our episode. 1, so many times we push and struggle to make our careers happen. And if we just let go of our expectation, we can make changes. Lata said this: your career is your launch pad to the rest of your life. 2, Lata's 5 steps were: calculate the costs, remember your worth, get clear on career, commit to change, and carve your path. These can help us come from a place of authenticity and identity and what we specifically want. 3, we are not a one-dimension person. We need to look at our lives holistically, and career is only 1/6, with interrelationships with other areas like finance, spirituality, health, and others. In our next episode, we'll hit our 200th episode milestone. And my daughter Kiki said I should do something special. So here it goes. At the end of my episodes this year, I've asked our guests, what would they tell their 20-something self today? And I have loved so many of their answers. I've put some of them together for you in this special edition. You'll hear their amazing voices from different generational perspectives, and I'll link to their episodes in the show notes in case you want to hear more. So please join us again and help us celebrate. We're pretty excited about reaching that milestone. Talk to you soon. Bye.